Welcome back! I have now owned my 2023 Mercedes-Benz EQS 580 sedan for 3 full years. And in this episode, I'm going to give you what I hope to be is a comprehensive analysis of the ownership experience for this car. I'm going to talk about specific things about the vehicle that I love, specific things about the vehicle that I'm unhappy with, specific things that I have done to help, I think, make my ownership experience better. Some things I wish I would have done sooner or wish I could have done. And I will give you an estimate on how much I have paid to maintain this car, both in charging and in routine maintenance. And I will give you my final thoughts on the overall experience. And like my title says, this was probably the worst fiscal decision I have ever made. But at the end, I'll tell you why I'm okay with that. As I started considering the things that bother me about the car, I realized they're not things that inconvenience me. They're things that inconvenience my passengers that then irritates me. And I'll get into these, but the examples are getting in and out of the car, the shadow stopping that just stops the car, the loud air conditioning when it's hot out, and then the challenges with changing the volume on the steering column because there's not a dial, it's a touch thing. All of those things are negatives to me and are embarrassing because I want this car to be absolutely perfect when somebody else is in the car. But those things aren't actually things that bother me when I'm driving by myself. So let me walk through the things about this car that bother me. One of the things about the car that I don't love is the volume of the air system when it's trying to cool you. When I turn on the seat coolant, it's loud enough that I've had people ask, what is that noise? Now, it's nice and cool, but it does get loud enough that it can be a distraction. So it's best when I'm just by myself. Otherwise, I may or may not turn it on. The other part of the air conditioning system that gets loud is when I turn the air system up. When it's really hot out, which it's not right now, the air conditioning system blows really hard to bring the temperature down. Now, once it gets to temperature, it gets quiet and things go well, and I can manually adjust the speed with which the air is blowing so I can control the volume of it. But when I'm looking at the car I used to have, which was an S550, compared to this car, the S550 somehow found a way of blowing out a lot of good cold air and getting the temperature in the car down without being really loud. And so that's something that in the summertime, I'm very conscious of. One of the things that really bothers me, but it happens rarely, but when it happens, it happens. And I can't really show you because I never know if it's going to happen. But occasionally when I'm backing out of a driveway, the car will think it sees something in the road. Usually it's a crack in the sidewalk, a crack in the driveway, a shadow sometimes has tripped it off. But the car will think I'm about to hit an object and it will just slam the brakes. And when I'm by myself, it's an irritant. When I have my mother or grandson in the car with me, it has actually scared them a couple of times because it just stops on the dime and the whole car shakes because it's going from 5-10 miles an hour to zero in like 0 feet. And so while I appreciate the safety, the fact that it's stopping when there's nothing behind me is something that is a bother. While I absolutely love the MBUX, one of the things that is an irritant about the car is the lack of dials. And that is no more apparent to me than in the volume. While down in the center console, there's a push button you can push to adjust the volume. On the steering wheel, it's a rolling touch sensor. And while I can get it to work, there are times when I'm pushing it and I've just already gone up halfway up the dial and it hadn't moved at all. So occasionally it's not as responsive as I like it to be. And when I've got people in the car with me that I'm trying to not bother, like if somebody's sleeping, I like to be able to make minor adjustments, and I can't do that well from here because the sensor doesn't always catch every little move I'm making, so I'll have to do it down here. And when I'm focused on the road and driving, I would prefer to do it here, which is why the old scrolls were so nice. The number one thing that irritates me about my car is actually one of the things that makes it so attractive. The nice aerodynamics made them change the style of the A-pillar, which means it's harder to get in. As a driver, I'm so used to this. I just put my foot in there, pivot my left foot, and I'm in. That was easy. But for people who don't sit in this car on a regular basis, especially if they're sitting in back, they go to get in and they're hitting their head on the back of the car. They've got to lean forward to get in and then scoot over before they can finally get in. Pretty much everyone I've ever had sit in my car with me for the first time has had a problem getting in. That's why that's the number one thing that bothers me about my car. One of the things I've really enjoyed about the car and the MBUX system is how they celebrate holidays. For example, I'm filming this on Halloween Day, so along the bottom I've got jack-o'-lanterns, I've got leaves. My secondary screen defaulted to the jack-o'-lanterns. I could turn that off if I want to, but for one day I like it. It's a nice touch. I'm going to leave it, and I appreciate this particular feature. Another thing I love about this car is the comfort to the occupants. From the pillows for the headrests, to the heating and cooling that all four seats have, to the massages that the front seats have, to even the pillow that Mercedes provided for me for the backseat passengers. Comfort in this car, in the quality of the seats, is really outstanding. One of the other things I love about this car is the quality of the interior. From the feel of this wood grain here to the feel of the rest of the car, and just the way it was all put together and stitched really gives a sense of high quality and luxury, to include even the headliners are very luxurious, and I've appreciated that. Another thing I love about this car is the ride. The shocks are terrific. I love having it on comfort mode because that's why I bought the car. The acceleration is terrific. As I press on the accelerator, the car moves forward that way, that speed. As I've shown you before, I can go from 0 to 60 in this car in 4.3 seconds. And so if I'm driving and somebody's behaving dangerously in my area, I can get out of the way and moved over very quickly, which is not as responsive in gas cars. So I love the fact that the car provides me a stable ride, a smooth ride, a comfortable ride with acceleration that just moves. Speaking of acceleration that moves because it's electric, it's also a very quiet ride. And that's the one thing above all about the ride that I love the absolute most. I'll make that second most. I love the smooth ride more. But the quiet ride, I can have an interior noise if I wanted to with the accelerator, with sounds, but I like it to be quiet in this car. As I've demonstrated before, when I open the door, I can tell that there's noises outside compared to when I close it because the insulation on this car is amazing. Just to give you a demonstration of how quiet this car is on the interior, listen to the sound change when I open the door. Another feature I really appreciate is the camera function. I can simply click right here and I can see the car, everything around it, change the angles, all from right here. With other cars, you've got to go into a menu to go into a menu, and I appreciate that. In my car, I can just push this button right here and I'm getting right on it. One of the other features I really appreciate this car is the interior assistant, where I simply take my finger, do this, and I activate my massage. I can change that in any favorite I want, but for me, I use the massage practically every day, and so that's what I want on my favorites. Another thing I've really enjoyed about this car is this screen in front of me. I can look at my tire pressure, I can see the cars around me, and I can watch as the car gives me assistance while I'm driving. I can look at the map. I can look at the full scale map here, full scale map there, and occasionally when my dad was with me, he had a full scale map on his screen. I had 3 screens, full scale map telling us where we were going and how we were doing. I can use the classic one, which gives all kinds of good information, and that's actually my general standard. I can have the sports screen that'll show me the G-forces and how things are moving around. Or if I wanted to, I can just go understated, nice, quiet. It'll attune the ambient lighting to the colors I choose from here. Just really nice. Also from here, I can change my augmented reality above me. Another thing I really appreciate about this car is the MBUX system. Not necessarily the hyper screen itself, but all the apps I have access to, combination of the galleries from my dash cam, access to my dash cam, a web browser, YouTube, a movie player, and then a series of games as well as weather, a good collection of music, and a lot of things that I can use. And here's your tips so you can watch videos about how to do things. It'll tell you how to do things. The MBUX entertainment system, which comes on all cars, whether they hyperscreen or not, really has been something I've appreciated. Another thing I absolutely love about this car, this is one of my top features, in fact, I think I'll put this at number 2, is in fact my augmented reality. The information I have in front of me on my screen almost is exactly the same information I'll have on my screen here, and so I don't have to take my eye off the road to see what I'm doing. And when I'm changing lanes, it shows me which lane I'm going into, and it'll wait until it has to move me over, and it'll show me the distance from myself to the car in front of me, and it'll bounce that off me when I'm using the cruise control. An absolutely amazing feature that I use and appreciate every time I drive this car. Another thing I love about this car is charging at home.
At home, using your wall box is fairly simple. First, with the car unlocked and the keys with you, pop open the trunk. Ensure that on this device, the hole is facing up. Then come to your wall box, let out some of the wire, however much you need. Push the release, take it to the car, plug it in. Now the flashing blue lights means it's charging. Now look at my charge box, and it's now, instead of being green, it went to a light blue while the car was orange, and now it's a dark blue. So my charger is telling me it's charging, and the car is telling me it's charging. Now,
the number one thing I absolutely love about this car, and in fact, it is the reason I purchased this car, is in fact the hyper screen. I love my 17-inch screen in the middle, my 2 12+ inch screens on the sides, and all the features I can use. I can have my family picture up over there. The passenger can then set the navigation, can do the massaging, can play music and entertainment on their screen. If they have Bluetooth headphones, they can actually watch a movie while I'm driving without having to worry about this thing shutting down because I might look at it. And it's just a magnificent setup for somebody like me who wants information available as we're driving and wants entertainment available at least to the passenger. I've made 2 improvements to my car that I think are really helpful, and I've been very glad I did. The first one was I added a ceramic coating to the car, and I had it clear wrapped on the key parts to help protect it from the elements. And that's really made my life simpler. I don't have to wash the car as much. In fact, I will go months without actually washing it. And maybe if it gets a little rain, spotting on it, I'll take a slightly damp towel and just wipe it down. But that's been terrific. It's protected me from minor scrapes and so forth, but it has allowed me to not have to wash the car as much while it still looks terrific. And I even put the stuff on the wheels, which has protected them. The second thing I did is the floor matting. The car came with floor matting for the front and rear seat that are all weather, as well as the really nice carpeting ones. Well, I've got a family, and I know that when it rains, my feet get dirty, and I don't really want to mess up my carpeting. And so I have just left the all-weather floor mats in this car, and that has been terrific. If somebody has spilled, which they have, it lands on the floor matting. I simply have to pull it out, wash it off, and the carpeting is untouched. I just recently added floor matting to the back of the car so that when I put my wife's scooter into it, I'm not worrying about messing up the carpeting, which it hasn't done yet. But in cleaning it, that takes a little extra effort. And so now I've got a floor mat for the trunk area. I feel much better. So those are two things I've done to help this car work even better. There are two things about this car that I wish I had done sooner, and there are two things I did that made improvements. So the first thing was the ceramic coating and the wrapping. When I got the car, I thought I was going to simply have it for a couple of years and trade it in. So among the things I didn't get was an extended warranty and a ceramic coating and a wrapping. Likewise, I wish I had gotten the floor matting for the back of the car sooner. For some reason, I never even really thought about it. I think when I first got the car, I looked for them, and the car was new enough they didn't exist. But then I never came back and thought about it again. And when I finally did, here at the 3-year mark, they had them. It fit perfectly, and I'm happy now. But I wish I'd done it sooner. When looking at the overall ownership experience, one of the things you are curious about is how much is it going to cost me to have and maintain a vehicle. So I'm going to cover what it cost me this last 3 years to maintain my car, and then I'll cover the expenses of the charging versus gas. But I've already discussed that I had 2 incidents on the road that cost me tires and wheels. And so I'm not even going to include that because those weren't standard maintenance. Those were, if you will, accidents. So I'm going to take those out of the picture. But here's what I spent on ownership the last 3 years. To have a home charger, I spent $2,750. Most of that actually was spent just getting my house up to spec. I had a house that was built on 1972 codes, and it barely had enough amperage in the house to handle the house. And actually, it was a little low for the house's standards. And so the electrician had to bring the house up to code and then gave it a better system to then handle the charger. Then the charger was some $700. So to have the whole thing installed was $2,750. Then when they became available, I went to Mercedes, bought the NASC adapter, and that was $240. Additionally, I've talked about the benefits of having the wrapping and the ceramic coating. That was not cheap. That cost me $4,300. I also bought this scent, the interior perfume, if you will, for my car because the first one I had ran out somewhere at the 2.5-year mark. And so that was $130. And then twice now I've had to pay for my MBUX experience with all the different features there. So in total, maintenance has cost me $7,720. I've had one checkup on the car, and that was covered free. So because I've got an electric vehicle, I only have to take this in for maintenance every 20,000 miles. And so I'll be doing that here somewhere in the next year or so because I'm not driving the car that many miles. And so I've actually had no standard maintenance done on the car that I've had to pay for. And so that's been great. But to get the electricity, the things I've had to spend money on, because this was an EQS and not a gas operated car, that cost me $2,950. And so that's something to consider if you're going to be having an electric car. How much will it cost you to have it charged at home? And I strongly recommend, if you possibly can, charge at home because that saves you money over time, paying 10, 11, 12, 13 cents per kilowatt hour versus the 40 to 50 cents per kilowatt hour at a standard charging station. So something to consider. And that's what this car has cost me in maintenance over the last 3 years. In addition to the maintenance, I consider the charging costs, which I've covered almost every month, as part of the maintenance of the car. Over the last 3 years, I've gone 31,000 miles. In that time, I've spent $1,450 on charging. Had I been buying the premium gas that my S-Class required at today's rates, which is less than it was when I bought the car at $3.70 a gallon here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, I would have spent $5,750. So paying $1,450 for charging versus $5,750 is a significant savings. And actually, that savings more than made up for the $2,750 I had to spend to get this car ready to be charged at home. So I'm really happy about that. And that's the expenses of it. Something you have to consider when you're buying a car. Consider the car you're going to buy compared to the same model car in a gas version. And for me, the maintenance and upkeep and charging was less having bought an electric car. Now that I've discussed the various specifics of this car that are positive and negative, and I've kind of walked through some of the expenses of owning the car, let me give you my overview and my honest opinion of ownership of an EQS 580 over 3 years. On the negative side, and as the title of this video indicates, buying this car was the worst fiscal decision I've ever made. When I bought it, the cars were rare and the market was very optimistic. Everyone was going towards electric. Guys would buy these cars, and after a couple months, if they decided to sell them back to the dealership was paying them more than they had initially bought the car for. So as I looked at the dynamics of ownership, I envisioned depreciation being very minor for at least the next couple of years. And so I said, I will buy one new, and in a couple of years I'll turn it in, because I envisioned in a couple of years, by 2025, the cars would improve enough that it would be worth my time to upgrade. So I bought it, and it hasn't worked out that way. Cars haven't improved enough for me to warrant trading in to get a new one. And the market has absolutely tanked. Depreciation is so bad that my car in just 3 years is worth less than 1/3 of what I spent on it initially. So keeping it is no longer an issue of should I, shouldn't I, because of the way finances go. I'm keeping this car for quite a while, which means the finances of it are no longer part of the equation. It was a terrible decision financially, but that's not why you buy a luxury car. Generally speaking, you keep finances involved, and I actually considered finances when I bought it, not realizing how badly the market would tank. But I then had to consider, I now have this car long term. What are my thoughts on it? So here's my honest opinion. I've had this car for 3 years, and I've absolutely loved it. I'm going to keep it. It's going to be my car for maybe the next decade. I'm okay with that. It's a terrific car. I love this car. Do I recommend you buying an EQS based on that fact, that it's not worth it financially? Here's my answer. If you're going to buy a used one, this is the time to do it. These cars are amazing, and you can get them for very low comparatively. As an example, when I bought my 2010 S-Class in 2016, it was 6 years old, and I got it for 1/3 the price it initially cost. So my car is depreciated at twice that rate. So you can take advantage of that and get an amazing car at a fraction of the original cost. I highly recommend it. Go get one. If you've got one, keep it, enjoy it, love it. If you're looking at getting a new one, Mercedes is already talking about their new solid-state batteries going significantly farther on a full charge than they can now. Wait until that becomes a reality. When that becomes a reality, all the challenges of charging and taking a long time to charge are going to go away, because Mercedes is working on faster charging. So by the time 2030 rolls around, we should be working on cars that can go 800 miles or so on a full charge and can charge up fully in half the time that they do now. And they're going to be putting that powertrain onto a full-scale S-Class, which means you're going to have the sunshades, power sunshades in the back windows. You're going to have softer seats and suspension system. You're going to have the best of the comfort of the S-Class with the benefits of a electric powertrain. And I think that's going to be a terrific combination. So if you're buying new, I recommend you wait until that comes together. And that's it. I have now concluded 3 years of ownership with this car, and I am therefore concluding for now making the videos. When I started making these videos, I didn't want to do it to build in anything. I just wanted to be able to provide other people the thing I was looking for. When I bought this car, I did dozens of hours of research. What the car had, the specifics of it, watching videos of other people reviewing it. And I really wanted to know what the overall experience was of ownership, not just what does some guy say who goes to a lot, looks at it, walks around it, and drives it for 15 minutes. I wanted somebody's actual opinion of what it's like to own the car. And so for 3 years, I have made over 100 videos showing you every month what I think of the car and what I've learned about the car, as well as a whole bunch of videos showing you, here's a tip how to do that, here's something I experienced here, here's a charging experience I had. And so I think I have met the needs that I sought to fulfill. And so I'm going to stop doing a regular video, as things come along that I think I want to share, I need to share, I'll put out a new video here and there. But for now, this will be my last video on a regular basis. I have so enjoyed the interaction with a lot of you out there who are learning from these videos and are sharing your experiences. That's part of the fun of having this video, is people give me feedback and say, hey, if you try this, you can get a better result. This is an answer to a question you raised, and I've really enjoyed that. So thank you for that. So until we do talk again, you make it a great day.